They Palin Obama face-off, if you will, which really juices this up even more. All right, let me bring in my highly distinguished panel. Let's see, we got Kellyanne Conway, polling company president, Republican pollster there. It's all up there, my great friend Kellyanne. Leslie Marshall is back. She hasn't been with us in so long. It is great to see her. We have CNBC contributor Keith Boykin, who's a former Clinton White House aide, and, oh my goodness, syndicated columnist David Limbaugh. It is great to see all of you. It's kind of like old home week. I guess President Obama is the uniter after all. Guys, I'm glad we got some laughter out of that, some laughter. All right, so Leslie Marshall, now, I'm not sure I understand this because President Obama is a very bright man. I've never taken that from him, nor do I intend to, but it's the UPS and FedEx and the private sector that are doing great, and it's the post office run by the government that's not. Isn't this an odd defense of his government insurance plan?
I don't know how odd it is, Larry. I was listening to an interview with the head of the post office, whose name escapes me at the moment, and he is defiant that the post office isn't technically a part of the federal government, as its workers will tell you. But that aside, I think he is accurate in that. When you hear that you have to have branches closing on Saturdays, et cetera, and UPS and FedEx aren't having these problems, he's being realistic. He's not shooting his government. I think he's being a realist and telling the American people what is economically the reality between sometimes the government and the private sector. I mean, the government certainly had to bail out some of the private sector on Wall Street, but this is a different venue. And again, you have to look at the context and what he's talking about. And when he's talking about health care, I don't think, we complain when for 40-some cents we can send a letter from California to New York. I think that's a pretty good deal, frankly. Well, but there are cuts at the post office that there aren't at UPS and FedEx. It's a reality.
Dave Limbaugh, I've heard a lot of presidents defend the post office. Obama didn't really even do that. And somehow, David, I don't think he got through what he intended to get through, either on the so-called death boards, the allegation of death boards, and the post office versus FedEx. Did he do himself any good today, Dave Limbaugh?
No, I don't think so. Obama is so disingenuous. Every time he opens his mouth, he digs his hole deeper. Oh. He didn't talk about subsidizing the federal government.
Going out 50 years.
That's right.
And that's why I wondered, the post office metaphor may not have been your man's, Mr. Obama's best play here. I mean, Leslie Marshall, if I knew Medicare was deep in the hole and I was going to cut costs from Medicare and I knew that elderly people were leaving off the reservation on this, would you have gone where President Obama went? I guess that's the part that mystifies me, his presentation today.
Well, yes, I would, because, when who was saying I think David was saying he's disingenuous. He's certainly being genuine. He is answering the questions that are posed. He's answering the questions that America's putting out there through programs like this, radio programs like mine, and answering the questions that seniors want. I don't know any seniors that are turning away Medicare, and certainly I can see why some seniors would be concerned with cuts that are mentioned.
Yeah,
but what plan are we talking about, guys? The president's plan, the House plan, the Senate plan? There is not one plan.
All right, we're going to
various plans and various proposals.
We're going to come.
He chose the priority list here, and so people are saying $1 trillion. He's going back to the same well. The well's not just dry; the well is angry.
Leslie Marshall, could you comment on that? Because it seems like, at the very least, apart from the merits or demerits of health care, that the public is up in arms because they just see too much government, too much potential control, even too much change, Leslie. Is that one of President Obama's problems?
I think one of the problems is that the people are believing the lies, and especially the right-wing smear tactics. I mean, David, for example, didn't give an accurate assessment. I own a medical center. I'm married to a surgeon, in addition to being a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. So I know from whence I speak. One of the problems with the cost right now is, this is a health cost reform program, not a health care reform program, and that's one of the problems I personally have with it. Another thing are the lies, the fear that it's being spread. The whole Sarah Palin's Facebook, even though she's irrelevant in the grand scheme of healthcare and this country as a former governor of the state of Alaska. We also have to look at the litigiousness of our society, the malpractice suits against doctors, the visits to emergency rooms, not having generic programs available for every drug that is out there. We haven't even touched upon this.
David Limbaugh, I wanted to...
No, health care reform is necessary for the wealth and the health of this country, or it's a train wreck waiting to happen.
It's all about care. Obama is going to decide who gets what.
No, it's about greed.
So he's going to
it's about greed. Look how much the head of Blue Cross, United Healthcare, and Cigna and Aetna make. And it's about greed.
David Limbaugh, how much of this is about Sarah Palin? I just want to... What is that? I'm interested that this death board stuff, she puts it out there, it catches on all over the country.
This is not about Sarah Palin, who I adore. This is about people's freedom and liberty. It's not just about costs, by the way. This is about liberty. This is a government takeover of 1/6 of the economy.
Please.
They will decide
then stop taking Medicare
kind of
when
care
you
we
become
can
a senior,
receive. Please let me finish.
liberty.
They will decide. Obama has admitted that he will base payments and bundle payments based on whether medical treatment is approved by doctors. And then he has the audacity to look us in the face and say he's not about
Medicare currently does
gotta
that,
leave it
and
there.
so does every
I'm
insurance plan in the private sector.
Leslie, it's great to see you. I appreciate you coming back on the show. I'm just flat out of time. We got a little more stock market work to do. Kellyanne Conway, it's wonderful to see you. Leslie again, David Limbaugh, and always Keith Boykin. Thank you very much for the discussion.